The call came at 7:16 on a Tuesday morning, and I remember that because I was standing barefoot in my kitchen, counting the beeps on the coffee maker like a man trying not to think. 1 beep for power, 2 for brew, 3 for the little red light that meant the filter basket was crooked again. I was 67 years old, retired from forensic accounting, widowed for 11 months, and apparently still capable of being surprised before breakfast. "Mr. Mercer," the woman on the phone said. "That depends who's asking." There was a pause. Not a long one. A trained pause. Bank people have those. They leave just enough room for you to feel the shape of what is coming. "This is Elaine Porter from North Shore Trust. I'm calling regarding an international wire request connected to your late wife's savings account." My late wife's savings account. Not our checking account. Not the little emergency account we used for the furnace and property taxes and the ridiculous annual fee on the credit card. Eleanor refused to cancel because it gave her airline miles we never used. Her savings account. The one she opened in 1989 after selling her mother's engagement ring. The one she called her storm jar, even though there was nothing jar-like about it except the way she guarded it. She had written the first deposit amount in blue ink on the back of an old grocery receipt. $840. I still had that receipt in a file folder marked E. M. Personal, tab 3, left side of the bottom drawer. I mean that literally. When you spend 38 years following money through shell invoices, fake vendors, inflated consulting fees, and grown men pretending they cannot remember who authorized a transfer at 211A, you learn to keep paper. Paper does not get embarrassed. Paper does not soften a lie to keep dinner peaceful. Paper just sits there and waits. I said, "How much?" Elaine inhaled once. $85,412. The kitchen went quiet in a way I did not like. Outside, a garbage truck was groaning down Ridge Avenue, doing that stop-and-lurch rhythm they do in Evanston when the street is too narrow and every parked Subaru believes it deserves extra room. My coffee machine clicked. The old refrigerator hummed. Somewhere above me, in the bedroom I had not fully slept in since Eleanor died, the floorboards settled with a little wooden sigh. And I laughed. You know what I did? I laughed. Not because it was funny. It was not funny. It was the kind of laugh your body makes when it has reached for anger and found something colder. "Mr. Mercer," Elaine said. "I'm here. Did you authorize this request?" "No." "Did Mrs. Mercer authorize this request prior to her passing?" "No." "Do you recognize the receiving account?" I looked at the yellow legal pad beside the phone. I had written 3 numbers on it the night before because I could not sleep. 14, 27, 41. They were not important. They were the house numbers on the 3 porch lights I could see from my kitchen window. I count things when I'm nervous. Always have. Eleanor used to call it my little weather vane. She said she knew when a storm was inside me because I would start counting ceiling tiles, sugar packets, coat buttons, anything that stood still long enough. "No," I said, "but I know who wants me to." That was the first honest sentence I said that morning. Before I go any further, I should tell you something. This is not a story about a clever old man destroying a younger one. I have no interest in that kind of theater. I have seen revenge dressed up in expensive suits, and most of the time it just becomes another mess for somebody decent to clean up. This is a story about what happens when a man mistakes quiet for weakness. My name is Harold Mercer. I spent most of my working life in Chicago tracing money for insurance firms, private attorneys, and occasionally one government office that paid late and asked too many questions. I retired at 62 with a stainless steel Parker Jotter pen I bought in 1986 after my first serious audit, a bad right knee from slipping on ice outside the Quincy station, and a wife who could still make me feel like the luckiest fool in Illinois by leaving a note in my lunch. This channel tells stories about fathers, families, betrayal, and the kind of justice that does not need to shout to be heard. If you've made it this far, do us one quick favor. Subscribe. A lot of people watch without ever doing it, but it costs you nothing and means everything to us. Thank you genuinely. Now, here's the thing. People think forensic accounting is dramatic because television has taught them money leaves glowing trails on screens while someone in a black shirt types very fast. It does not. Most of the time, money hides in boredom. It hides in a vendor name that is almost spelled right, a deposit that lands 2 days after a funeral, a signature that leans left when the real person always leaned right. It hides in normalcy. That is why normalcy should make you careful. My son-in-law, Adrian was made of normalcy. He was 42, tall in the way men are when they remind you of it without saying so, and always dressed like he had just stepped away from a conference panel on ethical leadership. Navy sport coats, brown shoes polished enough to embarrass the floor, a watch with no numbers. He smelled faintly of cedar, and something expensive I never identified. He married my daughter, Claire, in October of 2017, at a restored brick venue in Oak Park where the exposed beams did a lot of emotional work. Eleanor cried through the vows. I tried not to, because I had told myself a father should maintain some dignity while giving away his only child, which was ridiculous, because there is no dignity in handing your daughter's hand to another man while remembering the first time she wrapped it around your thumb. Claire looked happy. That mattered. Adrian looked sincere. That mattered less, though I did not know it yet. At the reception, he stood beside me near the bar while a jazz trio played Autumn Leaves badly but with conviction. He held a glass of club soda with lime. I remember that because he made a point of saying he did not drink much. "Harold," he said, "I want you to know I'll take care of her." I looked at him for a moment. "Don't make that sound like a favor," I said. He blinked. Then he smiled. That smile bothered me. Not because it was smug. Smug I can handle. Smug tells on itself. Adrian's smile was better than that. It adjusted, like a thermostat. 1 second too warm, then just right. Eleanor elbowed me later and said, "Be nice." I was nice. "You threatened him with grammar." I corrected his premise. She laughed into her champagne, and for the rest of the night, whenever Adrian came near us, she would whisper, "Careful, Harold. His premise is showing." That was Eleanor. Even when her joints hurt, even when her hands began to tremble years later, she kept a little lamp of humor burning somewhere inside her. She had been a high school librarian for 31 years, which meant she could silence a room full of teenagers with one raised eyebrow and still remember who was secretly reading under the table. She loved order, not because she was stiff, but because order gave Mercy somewhere to live. Our house in Evanston is a red brick place near Fountain Square, though the realtors always stretch the neighborhood names like taffy. 2 stories, narrow stairs, a basement with low beams and shelves full of files I promised Eleanor I would sort one day. She never believed me. She was correct not to. In that basement, I kept old tax returns, insurance records, warranties for appliances we no longer owned, and my audit notebooks going back to 1991. Eleanor kept one metal recipe box of index cards that had nothing to do with recipes. Banknotes, password hints, insurance contact numbers, a locksmith receipt from 2004, a clipping from the Tribune about a library bond vote she had won by annoying the right alderman for 6 straight months. We were not rich. We were careful. There is a difference. Cleverness is fast. What I do is slow. For years, Claire teased us about it. "Dad, nobody needs a paper statement anymore." I do. You have online access. I also have stairs. Doesn't mean I throw away ladders. She would roll her eyes. But she did it with affection back then. She was bright, impatient, and soft-hearted in a way that made me proud and afraid at the same time. Claire believed people could become better if you gave them enough chances. Eleanor said that was beautiful. I said it was expensive. Both can be true. My oldest friend, Marty Bell, used to come over on the first Saturday of every month for coffee and whatever pastry he claimed his doctor had not specifically prohibited. Marty was a retired bank compliance officer, 69 years old, with eyebrows like 2 gray caterpillars arguing across his forehead. We met in 1994 during a miserable audit involving municipal bond funds and a photocopier that jammed every 12 pages like it had religious objections. We once got stuck together in an elevator in the Chicago Loop for 42 minutes. Marty spent the entire time reciting emergency procedures, while I ate the little roll of wintergreen mints from his coat pocket. He still mentions it. "You owe me those mints," he said. "Every Christmas." They expired in 1993. Not the point. Marty was the first person outside my house who noticed I did not like Adrian. It was May of 2019. Eleanor had made lemon bars, and Claire had brought Adrian over for Sunday dinner. He was talking about a private equity group he had joined as a strategic advisor, which sounded like a job title assembled from a catalog. He said words like liquidity, efficiency, and family legacy with the same soft pressure a salesman uses when he wants you to touch the leather seats. Marty, who had come by to return a socket wrench he borrowed and somehow stayed for dessert, sat in the corner chewing very slowly. After Claire and Adrian left, Marty looked at me and said, "That one ever ask about your accounts?" I stopped drying a plate. "Not directly," Marty nodded. "Men like that rarely start directly." Eleanor was at the sink, hands in warm water, looking down at the suds. Her shoulders had gone still. I saw it, and did not ask fast enough. That is one of the small regrets that grows teeth later. Instead, I said, "He's ambitious." Marty snorted. "So was Nixon." "Marty." "What?" "I'm being restrained." Eleanor smiled, but it did not reach the corners of her mouth. A month later, she asked me to drive her to North Shore Trust. It was a Friday morning, 10:30, raining hard enough that the gutters sounded like a room full of typewriters. She wore her blue wool coat, the one with the loose button at the left cuff, and carried the brown leather folder she used for important things. I remember her hand resting on top of it the whole drive, fingers spread, as if the papers inside might try to leave. "Do you want to tell me what this is about?" I asked. She watched the wipers for 3 passes. "Not yet, Eleanor." I said not yet, Harold. So I drove. I did not raise my voice. I did not need to. With Eleanor, silence was not punishment. It was space. She had given me plenty of it over the years when I came home from work, carrying other people's lies on my shoulders. At the bank, she asked for Elaine Porter by name. That surprised me. Elaine was not a teller. She handled estate planning accounts, trust documents, beneficiary reviews. The kind of person you see when life has become paperwork with consequences. We sat in a small office with frosted glass and a fake plant that had dust on every leaf. Elaine opened her folder and took out 3 pages. Not many. 3. "I want alerts placed on this account," she said. Elaine nodded. "What kind of alerts?" "Any international wire request, any beneficiary change, any online access attempt from a new device. And I want Harold called before anything moves." Elaine looked at me, then back to Eleanor. "Mrs. Mercer, you are the primary owner. I know what I am." Her voice was calm. Too calm. Something in my stomach shifted. I turned toward her. "Ellie." She did not look at me. "Please," she said to Elaine. "Can it be done?" "It can," Elaine said carefully. "We can add enhanced verification and a manual review note. It may delay legitimate transactions." Eleanor gave the smallest smile. "I am 64 years old. I have waited in DMV lines. Delay does not frighten me." Elaine almost smiled. Almost. So did I. Which, if you know me, is the closest thing to a miracle in a bank office. On the way home, Eleanor was quiet. The rain had softened into mist, and the car smelled like wet wool and the peppermint lozenges she kept in the glove compartment. At a red light on Dempster, I reached over and touched her hand. "Is this about Adrian?" She kept looking forward. No, that was when I knew it was. Not because she lied badly. Eleanor lied rarely, which meant she did it carefully, like someone carrying a full cup through a crowded room. "Claire?" I asked. Her mouth tightened. No, that one was true. I let the car idle after the light turned green until the driver behind me tapped his horn. Eleanor squeezed my hand once, then let go. "Harold," she said, "promise me something. Anything. If something ever looks wrong, don't make a scene. Just follow it." I looked at her. Follow what? She turned then, and her eyes were tired in a way I had not allowed myself to see. The money. I kept that promise for 4 years. And on that Tuesday morning, with Elaine Porter on the phone and $85,412 trying to leave my dead wife's account, I reached for my old Parker pen, clicked it once, and wrote Adrian's name at the top of a clean page. I did not call Adrian that morning. That may sound strange to some people. Maybe you hear $85,000 and your first instinct is to grab the phone, demand answers, make the house shake a little. I understand that. There were years when I might have done the same, but age gives you a few gifts if you are willing to accept them. One of those gifts is learning that panic is generous. It gives your enemy information for free. So I told Elaine Porter to place the request under manual hold and send nothing until I spoke to counsel. She asked if I wanted to file a fraud report immediately. Yes, I said, but quietly. Elaine paused again. You understand this may involve law enforcement. I do. And family members may be contacted. I expect they will. Mr. Mercer, do you have reason to believe this was initiated by someone close to you? I looked at Adrian's name on the paper. My handwriting was smaller than usual. Tight. Controlled. I have reason to believe someone close to me has been making assumptions. There was another silence, and this one did not feel trained. I'll mark the account, she said. Nothing moves today. Thank you, Elaine. After I hung up, I stood there with the phone still in my hand until the coffee turned bitter in the pot. I counted the tiles above the sink. 4 across, 3 down. 2 cracked corners near the cabinet where Claire had slammed a mug into the wall when she was 16 and arguing with Eleanor about a biology test she swore was unfair. She cried afterward, not because of the mug, because Eleanor made her sweep up every piece before they talked about the grade. That was my daughter. Hot flame, soft center, and Adrian had learned both. Here's the thing about men like Adrian. They do not arrive in your life wearing a villain's coat. They do not sneer at the table or twirl their mustache or say things like, "One day all of this will be mine." Real betrayal is better dressed than that. It brings flowers to your wife. It remembers your daughter's coffee order. It calls you "Sir" the first 3 times, and then "Harold" once it thinks the ground is safe. For the first 2 years of their marriage, Adrian performed respect beautifully. He came early to Thanksgiving and carved the turkey even though he did it wrong, sawing back and forth until Eleanor whispered, "That bird is being audited." He sent me articles about retirement tax changes with little notes like, "Thought you might find this interesting." He asked questions about my old cases, but never too many at once. He was patient. That bothered me more than pressure would have. Pressure has fingerprints. Patience wears gloves. Claire adored him. I do not say that with bitterness. She really did. When they visited on Sundays, she would watch him tell a story and her face would soften at the edges. She looked relieved around him, as if she had finally found someone competent enough to let her stop carrying everything. Claire had been carrying things since she was 9 years old, and Eleanor broke her ankle on the back steps. She made toast for both of them for 2 weeks and burned every slice. Eleanor ate it anyway. So when Adrian began offering help, Claire heard love. "Dad, Adrian says we should consolidate some of Mom's medical bills," she told me one afternoon in 2021. Eleanor was in the living room then, asleep under the yellow quilt her sister mailed from Iowa. The first round of treatments had left her thinner than she admitted. We were still pretending the word manageable meant safe. "Consolidate how?" I asked. Claire lifted one shoulder. "Just organize. He knows people. Everybody knows people." "Dad." I was at the dining room table with a stack of pharmacy receipts, a calculator, and my Parker pen. The pen had a tiny scratch near the clip from the year I dropped it in a courthouse hallway in Cook County. I kept rubbing my thumb over that scratch. Adrian was in the kitchen, talking to Eleanor in that low, professional tone he used when he wanted witnesses to remember him as gentle. "I'm not saying no," I said. "I'm asking how." Claire sighed. "Why do you always hear help as a threat?" That landed. Not because it was fair, because there was just enough truth in it to make me look down. "I don't," I said. You do. You and Mom both. You built this whole life where nobody can touch anything unless it has a label and a backup copy and a signature in blue ink. Black ink scans cleaner. She stared at me. I will not be taking questions about that, I said. She almost laughed, then stopped herself. We were in one of those years when laughter felt disloyal if it came too easily. Adrian appeared in the doorway. Everything okay? Fine, Claire said. Fine is a word that sounds like a compliment but isn't. Adrian looked from her face to mine, and I watched him make a calculation. Not with numbers, with temperature. He could read a room like a lobby sign. Harold, he said, I hope I haven't overstepped. I just know these systems can be exhausting, and I'd like to reduce the load where I can. There it was. The reasonable voice. The open hands. The son-in-law offering support to a tired old man with a sick wife. It was beautiful the way certain storms are beautiful from far away. I appreciate that, I said. His smile appeared, exact as a receipt. Of course. And trust me, I wanted to be wrong about him. People forget that part. Suspicion is not satisfying when your daughter is in love. It is not clever. It is lonely. There were nights I sat beside Eleanor's bed, listening to the oxygen machine pulse and click, and told myself I was seeing shadows because I had spent too many years in rooms where people lied for a living. Then Eleanor started hiding small things. Not big things. She never misplaced her wedding ring or the deed to the house or the folder with her treatment schedule. But she moved her recipe box from the kitchen cabinet to the basement shelf behind my old audit binders. She changed the password hint on her bank login from Claire's first cat to North Window. She began asking me questions she already knew the answer to. Where do you keep the 2016 tax file? Blue box. And the life insurance paperwork. Top drawer, right side. And the trust draft from Naomi? That one stopped me. Naomi Chen was an estate attorney I had worked with years before. Sharp, direct, and allergic to nonsense. She once told a client, "You are confusing secrecy with strategy," and I liked her immediately. Eleanor and I had spoken with Naomi after Claire got married, mostly to update basic documents. Nothing dramatic. What trust draft? I asked. Eleanor's face changed by half an inch. That was all. But after 41 years of marriage, half an inch is a confession. She smoothed the edge of the blanket with 2 fingers. Maybe I dreamed that. No, you didn't. Harold. Ellie. She closed her eyes. I need time, so I gave it to her. That is the part I still argue with in my head. Some days I think giving her time was love. Some days I think it was cowardice, wearing love's coat. I do not know. Marriage is full of small rooms like that. You walk into them years later and find the lights still on. In January of 2022, Adrian invited me to lunch downtown. Just me. No Claire. No Eleanor. We met at a steakhouse near LaSalle Street, one of those places with dark wood, white tablecloths, and waiters who behave as if lunch is a legal proceeding. Adrian arrived 8 minutes early. I arrived 12 minutes early and watched him sit down. That is not a typo. I was already there, at the bar, facing the mirror behind the bottles. Old habit. Reflection gives you angles people forget about. He checked his phone twice, adjusted his cuff once, and placed a slim folder on the chair beside him. I counted the bottles in the mirror. 36 on the top shelf, 21 below. 16 glasses hanging upside down. My knee was hurting because snow had turned to slush that morning, and Chicago slush has a way of making every old injury file a complaint. When I walked over, Adrian stood. Harold, thanks for coming. Your message sounded urgent. Not urgent. Important. Those are cousin words. They visit the same house. We ordered. He got salmon. I got tomato soup because I do not trust a $40 steak at noon. He laughed politely when I said that, though I had not meant it as a joke. The waiter appeared with bread. Would you gentlemen like sparkling or still? Still, I said. Sparkling, Adrian said at the same time. The waiter froze. Adrian smiled. Still is fine. A small thing. Nothing at all, really. But small things have saved larger truths more than once. After the waiter left, Adrian opened the folder. I've been thinking about Eleanor's care, he said. So have I. Of course, I only mean financially. There may be options to protect assets if things get more complicated. I looked at the folder. I did not touch it. What kind of options? He slid one page toward me. A limited power of attorney form. Not filled out completely. Just enough. My name appeared in one box. Eleanor's in another. Claire's name as alternate. Adrian's name nowhere obvious, which made it more obvious. I had someone draft a simple template, he said. No pressure, just a conversation starter. Who drafted it? A colleague. Name? He blinked. There it was again, the thermostat smile adjusting. I'd have to check. You brought a legal document to lunch and don't know who drafted it? It isn't a legal document yet. No, it's bait with margins. His jaw moved once. Very small. That slow grinding thing. Then he laughed. I can see why Claire says you're protective. I can see why you call this protection. The waiter returned at the worst possible moment with soup and salmon, placing them between us like evidence. Fresh pepper? He asked. Adrian looked at me. I looked at Adrian. No, I said. The waiter backed away slowly. For a few seconds, nobody spoke. The restaurant noise moved around us. Forks on plates, low conversation, someone laughing near the windows. Adrian folded his hands. Harold, I'm on your side. I clicked my Parker pen once under the table. I didn't ask you to pick one. He leaned back then. Just a little. Not defeated. Recalibrating. Fair enough. I did not tell Claire about that lunch. Not right away. I told Eleanor. She was in the green armchair by the window, wearing the gray sweater she used to keep at the library because room 204 was always cold. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she said, Did you keep the paper? Yes. Good. Ellie, what do you know? Her eyes moved to the window. Snow was caught in the branches of the maple tree, white lines on black wood, like an old photograph waiting to fade. I know our daughter loves him, she said. That wasn't my question. No, she said. It was mine. I sat with that. Think about that for a second. My wife, sick and tired and still sharper than most people on their best morning, was not afraid of losing money. She was afraid of what the truth would do to Claire. That is why Adrian lasted as long as he did. He did not hide behind offshore accounts at first. He hid behind my daughter's hope. By the summer of 2023, Eleanor's bad days outnumbered her good ones. Adrian visited more often. Always helpful. Always carrying something. Soup from a place in Wilmette. A new blanket. Forms from insurance. A brochure about home care agencies. He never arrived empty-handed. That was one of his rules. Marty noticed too. He came over one Saturday with a box of cannoli and a face like weathered leather. That boy is circling, he said. He's 42. To me, he's a boy. And he's circling. We were in the basement, beside the shelves of files. The air smelled like cardboard, dust, and the coffee I had forgotten upstairs 2 hours earlier. Marty tapped one of the metal boxes with his knuckle. You still have view-only alerts on the accounts? Yes. Freeze protocols? On Eleanor's savings, not on everything. Why not everything? Because I am married, not managing a museum. Marty gave me a look. Harold. I hated when he said my name like that. Marty could turn 2 syllables into a compliance memo. I know, I said. Do you? I opened the drawer where I kept the North Shore Trust documents. The enhanced verification form was there, signed by Eleanor in blue ink. Her signature had begun to tremble by then, but the E still rose at the beginning, proud and slanted, like it always had. Marty looked at it for a long time. Good woman, he said quietly. The best. Then don't wait until grief makes you polite. I almost smiled. Almost. 3 months later, Eleanor died on a Thursday just after 4:40 in the afternoon, while rain tapped against the bedroom window and Claire held her left hand. I held her right. Adrian stood at the foot of the bed with his head bowed at the correct angle. I remember thinking that was unfair of me. Then he opened his eyes and looked at the dresser. Not at Eleanor. Not at Claire. At the dresser. The brown leather folder was there, half tucked beneath a folded cardigan. Something in my stomach shifted again. At the funeral, Adrian gave a short, tasteful speech. People complimented it. Claire cried into a tissue until it tore in her hand. Marty stood beside me near the back of the chapel and whispered, "You breathing? Enough. Eat later." "No. Harold." I said no. He handed me a mint. "Then suck on this before you pass out and make this about you." I took it. I will not be taking questions about that. For 11 months after Eleanor's funeral, Adrian behaved perfectly. Too perfectly. He checked on Claire, managed condolences, helped her sort donations from the house. He offered to take boxes to Goodwill and asked if I wanted help reviewing estate paperwork. I said no every time. He never pushed. That worried me. Then, on the Monday evening before Elaine Porter called me, Claire came by alone. She stood in my kitchen at 8:03 p.m., wearing her navy coat and holding her car keys so tightly the metal bit into her palm. Her eyes were red, but not from crying, from deciding not to. "Dad," she said, "Adrian thinks you're making this harder than it has to be." I put my mug down. "What is this?" "Mom's account. The house. The documents. Everything." "Adrian thinks that?" "I think it too." The room went still. I did not raise my voice. I did not need to. "What exactly do you think?" She swallowed. "I think Mom trusted you, but maybe too much. And I think you don't trust anyone now. Not me. Not my husband. Nobody. There are sentences your child can say that go under the ribs and sit there." I sat in my car for a while after she left, even though the car was in my own driveway and I had nowhere to go. The dashboard clock read 9:14. The porch light flickered twice. Across the street, Mrs. Alvarez's dog barked at absolutely nothing, as usual. I remember tapping my Parker pen against the steering wheel. 1, 2, 3. The next morning, Elaine called, and by 8:02 a.m., before I had finished my coffee, I had already found the first piece Adrian forgot to hide. The first piece Adrian forgot to hide was not the wire request itself. It was the time. People who steal from family often think the crime is in the big act. The transfer. The forged name. The new account in a country that sounds clean if you say it softly enough. But the truth usually lives in the little things. Timestamps. Printer codes. A phone call that lasted 4 minutes longer than the story required. Elaine sent me the transaction packet at 8:02 a.m. Secure portal. Read only. The kind with a timer that logs you out if you breathe wrong. I printed nothing. Not yet. I opened it on the old Dell monitor in my basement, the one with a faint blue line down the right side that Marty kept telling me to replace. The international wire request had been submitted at 1:47 a.m. Central Time. That made me stop. Not because thieves cannot work after midnight. They can. Some of them do their finest work when decent people are asleep. But Adrian was not a night man. Adrian liked business hours. He liked conference rooms, calendars, quiet restaurants with linen napkins. He liked crimes that looked like procedures. So why 1:47 a.m.? I clicked deeper. The request came through a device registered 5 days earlier. New browser, new location. An IP address Elaine could not disclose fully over the phone, but the packet showed enough. Chicago. West Loop. Not Evanston. Not Claire's condo in Lakeview. Not Adrian's office address either. At least not the one he used on Christmas cards and tax forms. The account beneficiary line read, Meridian Advisory Holdings. 3 words. Very respectable. Very empty. I wrote them on the yellow pad and underlined advisory twice. Here's the thing. A company with advisory in the name is not always suspicious. Sometimes it advises. Sometimes it holds. Sometimes it is 3 men in a rented room moving money through paper walls and calling it strategy. I had seen both. By 8:28, I had the Illinois business search open. Meridian Advisory Holdings LLC had been formed 7 months earlier, with a registered agent on Wacker Drive. Its manager was listed as Peter Lang. I did not know a Peter Lang. That alone meant nothing. Then I saw the address, 225 West Wacker, Suite, 1840. I leaned back in my chair. That was Adrian's building, not his suite. Of course not. Men like Adrian know not to use the same suite. But the same building is often what laziness looks like when it is wearing cufflinks. I clicked my Parker pen once. The basement was cold that morning. June outside, October underground. The air smelled like paper, dust, and the cedar blocks Eleanor used to tuck into boxes of sweaters. Above me, the house creaked in its ordinary way. The kind of ordinary that keeps happening even after the world has tilted. At 9:06, I called Marty. He answered on the fourth ring, already annoyed. If this is about replacing that monitor, I am going back to bed. Meridian Advisory Holdings. There was a pause. That sounds like a rash with a logo, registered 7 months ago. Wacker Drive. Same building as Adrian. Money moved? Attempted. How much? $85,412. Marty exhaled through his nose. Odd number. Exactly. A round number is greed. An odd number is someone trying to look like an invoice. Marty said, "Do not call him." I know. Do not call Claire. I looked at the ceiling. A thin line of sunlight had slipped through the basement window and landed across Eleanor's recipe box. I know. No, Harold. I mean it. If she warns him, even accidentally, he starts cleaning. She came here last night. Marty went quiet. What did she say? That I don't trust anyone. Do you? I almost laughed. Not today. Good. Today is not the day for personal growth. I told him about the 1:47 a.m. submission, the new device, the West Loop IP fragment, the registered agent, the account name. Marty listened, without interrupting. That was how I knew he was worried. Marty interrupted weather forecasts. When I finished, he said, "Get Naomi." I was going to. Get her now. And Harold? Yes. This is not just a bad son-in-law anymore. I looked again at the account name. No, I said. It is a pattern. Naomi Chen's office was in Skokie, above a dental practice that always smelled faintly of mint and fear. She was 51, wore black glasses with square frames, and had the gift of making silence feel billable. I drove there at 10:40 with a folder on the passenger seat and my knee aching every time I hit the brake. Her receptionist offered me tea. No, thank you. Coffee? No. Water? I looked at the little paper cup dispenser, then at my folder. Yes. I drank all of it before Naomi came out. She did not hug me. I appreciated that. Some people treat grief like a doorbell and keep pressing it. Harold, she said. Come in. Her office had no fake plants. I noticed. Real books. Real files. One framed photo of a black dog with one ear up. I set the folder on her desk. Eleanor added enhanced verification on her savings account before she died. This morning, someone tried to move $85,412 overseas. Naomi sat down slowly. Who? Adrian. You can prove that? No. Good answer. She opened the folder and read. I watched her eyes move. Fast, then slower, then back to one page. Meridian Advisory Holdings, she said. You know it? No, but I know the shape. She turned her monitor slightly and began typing. Naomi typed like she was cross-examining the keyboard. Any power of attorney? He tried. When? January 2022. Lunch at LaSalle. I kept the draft. You brought it? I placed it on the desk. She looked at me over her glasses. Of course you did. I am predictable. Predictable is useful in court. That was Naomi's version of comfort. For the next 40 minutes, we built the first clean line. Not an accusation. A line. Eleanor's enhanced verification. Adrian's attempted power of attorney. Claire's recent pressure. The wire request. Meridian. Same building. Odd amount. New device. International account. Naomi wrote. Nothing dramatic. No words like betrayal. No moral thunder. Just facts, dates, source documents, and the phrase potential elder financial exploitation. even though Eleanor was gone. "Can you freeze it?" I asked. "The bank already held the wire. We can file for an emergency protective order regarding estate assets if we establish credible risk. Today? If I move quickly." "You move quickly." She looked at me. "I move correctly. Quickly is a bonus." I nodded. "That's better." Before I left, she said, "Do not confront him alone." I wasn't planning to. "Harold, I mean that literally." She did not smile, but one corner of her mouth considered it. At 12 p.m., Marty met me at a diner on Dempster called Lou's, where the coffee tastes like it has been personally disappointed by every customer since 1978. We sat in the back booth under a framed photograph of Northwestern students from a decade nobody could identify. Marty brought his reading glasses, a notepad, and 2 cannoli in a white box. "Stress pastry," he said. "I'm not hungry." That has never stopped either of us. I opened my laptop. He opened the box. For 3 hours, we traced Meridian. Not illegally. Not magically. Public records, business filings, domain registrations, property directories, old cached pages, boring tools, reliable tools. The internet is not a confession booth, but it leaves fingerprints when people are lazy. Meridian's website had gone live 6 months earlier. 3 pages, no staff photos, no physical description beyond Chicago-based strategic advisory. The contact email was info@meridian-advisory.com. Mail to info@meridian-advisory.com. Marty squinted. Dash in the domain. Amateur hour. Keep looking. The domain registration was privacy protected, but the SSL certificate history showed an older administrative email before it was hidden. p.lang@vail-strategic.com. Mail to p.lang@vail-strategic.com. I felt my face go still. Vail Strategic Partners was Adrian's consulting firm. Marty stopped chewing. "Well," he said, "that is inconvenient." I did not speak for a moment. I counted the sugar packets in the little metal holder. 9 white, 6 yellow, 3 pink. 18 total. The waitress came by with the coffee pot. "Warm up?" Marty covered his cup. "If you pour more of that, I'll testify against you." She laughed. I did not. And trust me, I wanted to laugh. I wanted this to become one of those ugly but ordinary family mistakes. A misunderstanding with bad timing. A sloppy business favor. Something Claire could survive without having to rebuild her whole memory of her marriage. Then I found the invoice. It was not in Meridian's records. It was in Claire's. Years earlier, back when everyone still trusted everyone enough to share holiday photos and tax PDFs in the same messy cloud folder, Claire had given me emergency access to a family document drive. She had forgotten, or maybe Adrian had. I logged in at 3:41 p.m. from the diner, using the recovery code Claire had written on a birthday card in 2018 because she said, "Dad, you're the only person I know who won't lose paper." I had kept the card in my desk. I will not be taking questions about that. There, inside a folder called Home Insurance 2024, was a PDF named M.A.H. Consulting Reimbursement. My hand went cold. I opened it. Meridian Advisory Holdings had billed Claire and Adrian's household for family asset restructuring consultation. Amount due, $18,900. Paid from Claire's personal checking account. Date, 3 weeks after Eleanor's funeral. Marty leaned in. "Does Claire know what that means?" "No." "You sure?" I looked at the screen until the numbers blurred. No. That was the first time I let the possibility enter the room. Not that Claire was guilty. I did not believe that. I still do not. But maybe she had signed something because Adrian told her it was normal. Maybe she had looked away because grief made paperwork feel like drowning. Maybe she had repeated his words to me the night before because they had been planted carefully, watered daily, and given my name as the problem. That is how some betrayals work. They do not only steal money, they borrow the voices of people you love. At 5:18, Naomi called. "I filed," she said. "Already? The emergency petition is in." Hearing request pending. I also sent preservation notices to North Shore Trust and Vale Strategic Partners. I sat straighter. Vale Strategic? The domain evidence gives us enough to ask them to preserve communications. Marty's eyebrows rose. Naomi continued. Do not be surprised if Adrian calls you. Why? Because he may receive notice before dinner. I looked at my phone. It was silent. For now. At 6:02 p.m., Claire called. Her name filled the screen, and for a second I saw her at 6 years old in a purple raincoat, standing in the backyard with a worm in her hand, asking if it had a family. I answered. Hi, sweetheart. Her breathing came fast. Dad, what did you do? I closed my eyes. What did Adrian tell you? He said you accused him of stealing Mom's money. I haven't spoken to Adrian. He said his firm got some legal notice. He said you're trying to ruin him. Marty leaned back across the booth and rubbed his forehead. I said, Claire, listen to me carefully. Where are you? At home. With him? A pause. Yes. I changed my voice then. Not louder. Lower. Go into another room. Dad. Claire. Another room. I heard movement. A door. Her breath shaking near the microphone. Okay. Do not argue with him tonight. Do not sign anything. Do not delete anything. Do not explain anything I am saying to you. What is happening? I looked at Marty. He gave one small nod. Your mother's savings account was hit with an international wire request this morning. Silence. Then very softly. No, it was held. No, Dad. $85,412. She made a sound then. Not crying. Not yet. Something smaller and worse. Adrian said you were confused. There it was. I sat back and the booth vinyl creaked under me. I went very, very quiet. Claire, I said, your mother put safeguards on that account herself. What? Before she died. She asked the bank to call me if anything like this happened. No. She wouldn't. She would have told me. Maybe she wanted to protect you until she had to tell you. From somewhere on Claire's end, Adrian's voice came through a wall. Claire. Who are you talking to? Her breathing stopped. I said, put the phone in your pocket and say nothing. Dad, No. The phone rustled. The sound changed, muffled by fabric. Then I heard Adrian closer, smooth and sharp under the softness. Claire, sweetheart, this is exactly what I warned you about. Warned her. That word sat on the table between Marty and me like a knife nobody was allowed to touch. Claire said something I could not make out. Adrian's voice lowered. Your father is not well. Grief does things to men. He is lashing out, and if we don't control this now, he could damage everything your mother built. Marty's face changed. Mine did not. Because in that moment, Adrian made his first real mistake. He kept talking. If you've been listening for a while and want stories like this to keep coming, it really helps if you hit that like button and subscribe. 97% of people never do, but it's what keeps this whole thing running. So, thank you for real. I listened from a diner booth on Dempster, while my son-in-law calmly explained to my daughter that I was unstable, confused, and dangerous. Then he said the sentence that told me this had never been only about Eleanor's savings. Once Harold is removed from the trust documents, Adrian said, the house becomes much easier to handle. I did not move after Adrian said it. Marty did. Not much. His hand, which had been resting beside the cannoli box, closed slowly into a fist and then opened again. That was Marty's version of throwing a chair. I held up one hand. Just one. The phone was still muffled in Claire's pocket, but I could hear enough. Adrian was walking now. His shoes made that light tapping sound on their hardwood floor, measured, controlled. He was performing concern in motion. Claire, he said, your father has been isolating himself for nearly a year. He refuses help. He keeps documents in that basement like some kind of bunker. This is not normal. I looked at the scratched edge of my Parker pen on the diner table. Normal. There it was again. The soft weapon, Claire said. Adrian, stop. He did not stop. We need to be practical. Your mother would not want the house tied up in paranoia. Marty's eyebrows lifted so high they nearly joined his hairline. I wrote one sentence on my yellow pad. He said house. Then I motioned for Marty's phone. He slid it over. I typed Naomi's number from memory because some numbers settle into you after enough legal trouble. She answered on the second ring. Harold? Claire has her phone in her pocket. Adrian is talking. Naomi did not waste a syllable. Do not record unless Illinois consent issues are handled. I'm not. Good. Listen only. Write contemporaneous notes. Date and time. It's 6:09 p.m. Keep him talking if Claire can do so safely. No confrontation tonight. I looked across the diner booth at Marty. No confrontation tonight, I repeated. That was the plan. Plans are tidy little lies we tell ourselves before people we love make them impossible. At 6:16, Claire came back on the line. Her voice was thin. Dad, I'm here. Is Mom's account safe? For tonight, yes. Are you safe? That one surprised me. I almost said yes automatically, the way fathers do when they are trying to remain useful. But there was something in her voice that made me choose the smaller truth. I am very angry, I said. But I am safe, she swallowed. I heard it. He wants to come over. Marty shook his head hard. Naomi's voice echoed in my memory. No confrontation tonight, I said. No. He says if you have accusations, he deserves to hear them. Then he can hear them from my attorney. Dad, please. If this is all a misunderstanding, it isn't. You don't know that. I closed my eyes. There are moments when being a father means telling your child less than you know because the full truth would crush her before it could help her stand. I know enough, I said. Claire was quiet for a long time. Then she said, I'm coming over. Alone? Another pause. I don't know. At 7:04 p.m., 2 cars pulled up in front of my house. I was standing in the living room, not the basement. That was deliberate. The basement was my world. Files, shelves, old coffee smell, dust, Eleanor's cedar blocks. If Adrian came down there, he would make it look like I had dragged him into a cave of obsession. So I stayed upstairs, where Eleanor's books still lined the wall, where the green armchair sat by the north window, where any lie would have to stand in her room and behave. Claire came in first. Her face looked older than it had the day before. Adrian followed 3 steps behind her in a navy coat and pale shirt, no tie. Casual emergency. Very tasteful. Marty arrived 2 minutes later with Naomi. He had changed shirts, which told me he was worried. Marty only changed shirts after 5 p.m. for weddings, funerals, or federal subpoenas. Naomi carried a slim black folder. Adrian saw her and smiled. Not a good smile. Harold, he said, I didn't realize this was a legal ambush. I said his name once. Quietly. Adrian. He looked at me, then at Claire, then at the folder on Naomi's arm. This is exactly what I mean, he said. You're escalating instead of talking like family. The silence sat like a 5th guest. Claire was standing near the piano. Eleanor never learned to play but refused to sell because she liked the idea of music waiting in the house. Her hands were wrapped around her keys again. The metal teeth pressed into her palm. Naomi said, Mr. Vale, I'm Naomi Chen. I represent Harold Mercer in matters related to the Mercer estate and potential financial exploitation. Potential, Adrian said. Yes, he gave a little laugh. Good. Then we agree nothing has been proven. No, Naomi said. We agree on one word. I almost smiled. Almost. Adrian removed his coat and placed it over the back of a chair without being invited to sit. That was a mistake, too. People tell you who they think owns a room by where they put their coat. Claire, he said, I don't think you should be here for this. Claire looked at him. What? This is between your father and me. No, I said. I did not raise my voice. I did not need to. Adrian turned. This involves my wife. It involved my wife first. That landed. Not loudly. It did not need to. His face did that adjustment again. Heat down. Charm up. Harold. I loved Eleanor. I looked at him for a full 3 seconds. No, you liked her signature. Claire flinched. Adrian's jaw moved, that slow, grinding thing. Marty shifted behind Naomi, and I could feel him wanting to say something unhelpful. To his credit, he did not. Growth can happen late in life. I will not be taking questions about that. Naomi opened her folder and placed the first page on the coffee table. This is the attempted international wire request submitted at 1:47 a.m. this morning. Adrian glanced at it. I've never seen that before. Good, Naomi said. Then the bank will appreciate your cooperation. She placed the second page down. This is the business registration for Meridian Advisory Holdings, the receiving entity. Same building as Vail Strategic Partners. A building in Chicago has many tenants. Correct. Third page. This is a historical certificate record, tying Meridian's domain administration to an email address at Vail Strategic Partners. Adrian's face did not collapse. Not yet. He was better than that. That proves nothing. Vendors, consultants, people share services all the time. Fourth page. This is an invoice from Meridian Advisory Holdings, paid from your household account 3 weeks after Eleanor Mercer's funeral. Claire made a small sound. I looked at her, not him. Did you know what that was? She stared at the paper. I signed the reimbursement. Adrian said her name sharply. Claire. Her hand was still frozen on the table. I asked you a question, I said gently. Did you know what Meridian was? She shook her head once. No. Adrian stepped forward. That invoice was for estate planning support. I was trying to help this family organize itself, Marty muttered. By billing your own shadow company? Naomi looked at him. Marty looked at the ceiling. Sorry. Adrian pointed at Marty. And who is he in all this? Another old man feeding paranoia? Marty's face went flat. I'm the old man who spent 30 years watching bank frauds start with sentences like that. The doorbell rang. Nobody moved. It rang again. Adrian looked toward the front hall. Naomi checked her phone. That should be the courier. I opened the door myself. A young man in a brown jacket handed me an envelope requiring signature. 7:31 p.m. Delivery from North Shore Trust. I signed with my Parker pen, the stainless barrel cold between my fingers. When I came back, Adrian was talking to Claire in a low voice. Sweetheart, we should go. This has become hostile. Claire did not move. I handed the envelope to Naomi. She opened it, removed 3 pages, read the first, and looked at me. The bank completed the preliminary call. Adrian frowned. What call? Naomi turned to him. North Shore Trust's fraud department contacted the registered business line for Meridian Advisory Holdings, then the associated administrative contact listed in archived domain records. Standard recorded compliance call. They asked whether Meridian was expecting a wire connected to Eleanor Mercer's account. Adrian's mouth opened slightly. Just slightly. And? Claire whispered. Naomi looked down at the page. The responding party said, Yes, but the family is difficult. Use the revised authorization. Adrian said, That could have been anyone. Naomi placed the page on the table. The call was routed to your Vail strategic extension. The room changed. Not loudly. No thunder. No music. Just a small surrender of air, like the house itself had been holding its breath and finally decided it was tired. Adrian looked at the page, then at Claire. Claire, listen to me. She stepped back. 1 step. That was all. But I saw it hit him. For the first time that night, he was not managing me. He was losing her. So he reached for the old weapon. Your father set this up. I nodded. Yes. Everyone looked at me. Adrian almost smiled, thinking I had admitted something useful. I said, Your mother set it up first. Claire turned slowly. What? I walked to Eleanor's green armchair and lifted the cushion. Beneath it was a flat envelope, cream-colored, her handwriting on the front. For Harold, if the storm comes through the front door. I had found it 2 months after she died. I had not opened it until that morning. Maybe that makes me foolish. Maybe it makes me faithful. I still do not know. Inside was a copy of the North Shore Trust safeguard request, a note naming Adrian's prior pressure about account access, and a trust amendment Naomi had drafted 18 months before Eleanor passed. Naomi placed the amendment on the table. Adrian went pale around the mouth. He knew before Claire did. Naomi said, "Any attempt by a spouse of a beneficiary to pressure, access, redirect, encumber, or influence Mercer family trust assets triggers independent trustee review and suspension of discretionary distributions pending court instruction." Claire whispered, "Mom did that." I nodded. "She was protecting you." Adrian laughed once. Dry, ugly. "This is insane." "No," I said. "This is paperwork." He looked at me then. Really looked. Maybe for the first time in all the years he had called me Harold, like we were equals in a room he understood. I clicked the Parker pen once. "You thought I was grieving too much to follow the money," I said. "But grief is not blindness, Adrian. Sometimes it is a lamp." His phone rang. Nobody spoke. He looked down at the screen. "North Shore Trust Fraud Department." I said nothing. Claire stared at him. The phone rang again. Then Adrian, with his perfect shirt and polished shoes and empty company, finally understood the title of his own mistake. The bank had called him first. And this time, everyone was listening. Adrian did not answer the phone on the first ring, or the second. By the third, his confidence had become something thin and shiny, like ice over dark water. Claire was looking at him the way a person looks at a staircase after missing a step. Not angry yet. Anger would come later. This was worse. This was recognition arriving before the body knew what to do with it. "Answer it," she said. Adrian looked at her. "Claire, don't let them turn this into—" "Answer it." Her voice did not shake that time. I remember that clearly because my daughter had spent years speaking around him, softening edges, translating his sharpness into ambition, his secrecy into stress, his control into concern. But in my living room, under the yellow light Eleanor always said made everyone look kinder than they were, Claire stopped translating. The phone rang a fourth time. Adrian answered. Adrian Vale. He put it on speaker because Claire told him to, and because refusing would have said too much. A man's voice came through, calm and professional. "Mr. Vale, this is Daniel Reeves with North Shore Trust Fraud Resolution. This call may be recorded for compliance and security purposes. Are you in a place where you can speak privately?" Adrian looked around my living room. "No," he said. Daniel Reeves paused. "Would you like to reschedule?" Naomi lifted one finger slightly, warning me not to speak. Claire said, "No." Adrian's eyes flicked to her. Daniel said, "Mr. Vale, we're calling regarding Meridian Advisory Holdings and an attempted wire request connected to the Eleanor Mercer savings account. For verification, can you confirm whether you are authorized to act on behalf of Meridian?" Adrian's mouth moved once before sound came out. "I would need counsel present." Naomi wrote something on her notepad. Daniel said, "Understood. We will mark refusal to verify at this time. Please be advised the transaction remains blocked pending investigation, and relevant records are being preserved." "Preserved?" Adrian said. "That is correct." "For what?" Daniel did not take the bait. "You may direct further questions to our Fraud Resolution Department or your legal counsel." "Good evening, Mr. Vale." The line clicked dead. Nobody moved for a while. The old clock in the dining room ticked 9 times, though it was only 7:39. Eleanor had bought it at an estate sale in Winnetka for $12 because, as she said, a clock with bad judgment still has charm. I never fixed it. That night, its wrongness felt appropriate. Adrian lowered the phone. Then he looked at me. "You have no idea what you've done." I nodded. "I know exactly what I've done. You've embarrassed your daughter." I looked at Claire. Her face was white, but she was standing. "No," I said. "You did that." He turned toward her quickly. "Claire, I was trying to protect our future." She stared at him. "Our future? Everything I did was to keep your father from locking you out of what should have been yours. What should have been mine," she repeated. "Yes, my mother's savings?" His jaw tightened. "Our family's assets." There it was. The language had finally slipped its leash. Not Eleanor's storm jar, not Claire's grief, not the account a dying woman protected because something in her own home had begun to smell wrong. Assets. I did not raise my voice. I did not need to. You should leave now, I said. Adrian looked at Naomi. Can he make me? Naomi closed her folder. No. But the police can, if he asks. I recommend you choose the cleaner exit. Marty made a tiny noise that might have been a cough or joy. Adrian picked up his coat. For 1 second, I thought he might try one final performance for Claire. Tears, maybe. A confession bent into a love story. But he was too proud for tears, and too frightened for strategy. At the door, he turned. You'll regret this, he said. I clicked my Parker pen once. I already regret knowing you. That was the harshest thing I said all night. He left. Claire did not follow him. She sank onto the edge of Eleanor's green armchair, the one by the north window, and put both hands over her mouth. No dramatic sobbing, no collapse. Just air leaving her in small, broken pieces. I wanted to go to her. I did not. A father learns, if he lives long enough, that not every pain can be carried for your child. Some of it has to be felt in her own hands so she can believe it is real. After a minute, she whispered, Mom knew. Yes, she knew before me. Yes, she didn't tell me. She was trying to find a way that would not destroy you. Claire laughed then, once, but it had no humor in it. Well, that went beautifully. I sat across from her. She loved you. I know, but she said it like she did not know where to put it. Naomi stayed another 20 minutes, practical and precise. Adrian was not arrested that night. That is not how these things usually work, and anybody who tells you otherwise has watched too many shows. The bank investigation took weeks. The emergency order came first, freezing activity around the trust and preserving relevant business records. Claire hired her own attorney. Adrian hired one too, a man with silver hair who spoke as if every sentence had been dry cleaned. Meridian Advisory Holdings was eventually shown to be controlled through layers that led back to Adrian's firm. The attempted wire had not gone through, but the $18,900 consulting reimbursement had. So had two smaller charges Claire had approved without understanding them, $4,600 for document review and $7,250 for legacy planning support. Respectable words. Rotten use. There were hearings, affidavits, bank records, emails recovered because people forget that deleting something is not the same as making it never exist. Adrian did not go to prison in some satisfying movie way. He entered a civil settlement first, repaid the improper charges with penalties, lost his position at Vail Strategic when their partners decided they preferred embarrassment to indictment, and later faced a separate inquiry tied to misrepresentation on financial documents. I will tell you the truth. It did not feel clean. Justice rarely does when your daughter has to sign divorce papers with one hand and hold a tissue in the other. 3 months after that night, Claire came over on a Sunday afternoon. No navy coat. No keys digging into her palm. She brought a paper bag from the bakery on Central Street because Eleanor had liked their almond croissants, even though she claimed they were too buttery, then ate 1.5 every time. We sat in the kitchen. For a while, we talked about small things. The maple tree. Marty's cholesterol. Mrs. Alvarez's dog, who had apparently expanded his war against invisible enemies to include the mail truck. Then Claire said, I'm sorry. I looked at my coffee. For what? For not believing you. I could have said it was fine. It was not fine. Fine is a word people use when they are trying to step over broken glass without looking down. So I said, that hurt. She nodded, and her chin trembled. I know. I also understand why you wanted to. That made her cry. I moved around the table then and put my hand on the back of her head, like I had when she was little and feverish and furious about having to take medicine. She leaned into me for maybe 10 seconds, maybe 12. I counted because I did not know what else to do with my own heart. I miss her, Claire whispered. Me too. She protected me from my own husband. No, I said. She protected you until you could protect yourself. That sentence stayed in the room longer than we did. Later, after Claire left, I went down to the basement. The stairs complained under my knee. The air was cool and smelled like cardboard and cedar, the way it always had. I took Eleanor's recipe box from behind the audit binders and placed it on the desk beside the Parker pen. Inside were her index cards, sorted in her strange librarian way. Accounts, insurance, house, Claire. One card had only 2 words written on it: North Window. I looked up at the little basement window where evening light was coming through at an angle, thin and gold, landing across the files like a quiet hand. If you liked this story, join our community by hitting that like button and subscribing for more real, raw, and family-centered stories. And as always, thank you for being a part of this sphere. I do not regret what I did. I regret that I had to do it. Claire and I are better now, though better is not the same as healed. She comes by twice a month. Sometimes we talk about Eleanor. Sometimes we do not. Marty still brings pastries he is medically forbidden to enjoy, and Naomi sends holiday cards with no personal message, just her name in black ink, which somehow feels exactly right. As for Adrian, I hear things occasionally. Not from Claire. She does not say his name unless paperwork requires it. I heard he moved to Indianapolis, then maybe Denver. Men like him rarely disappear. They rebrand. I keep the house, not because brick and wood matter more than people, but because Eleanor chose every corner of it. The green chair by the north window, the piano that waits for music, the basement shelves full of paper nobody wanted, until paper became the only honest witness in the room. Some nights, I sit at the old desk and click that Parker pen once before turning off the lamp. 1 beep for the coffee maker, 2 cracked tiles over the sink, 3 words Eleanor gave me when the storm was still far away. Follow the money, and when the house is quiet enough, I put my hand on her recipe box and say, "Got him, Ellie." Not loudly. I don't need to.